Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering The Hunting Wives. This is season 1, episode 6. I promised you all I would get this to you, and now I have. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video, and also you can subscribe. You can also leave your comments below. Tell me what you think of the series. Tell you what you think of me even reviewing it. And am I staying true to what was on the show presented to us, or anything you'd like to add? Let me know. Let me know if I missed something, please, All right, so let's get into this episode. Okay. So just want to give you a little tidbit. Remember the last episode, I think, whichever the episode where the girls go and get Botox after Abby has passed away, and they were bummed that Margot couldn't join them? The guy that was administering the Botox, I recognized him, and I was just trying to remember where he was from. There are these skits that are on Instagram, and sometimes I see them on Twitter. Do you know the skits where the mean gays? They're very shallow, self-absorbent, very mean, basically. There are a lot of skits. Well, he's part of the team with another guy that's on there. I think he first became famous from doing these chili skits. It was cool. But anyways, his name is Aaron Goldberg on Instagram. I think his handle is like Aaron Goldie Boy. So check him out. Check out some of them skits. They are so funny anyways. But just a little highlight and tidbit. And just for a second, letting you know that tomorrow, Sunday, August the 10th, I will have up the remaining episodes of season 1, which are episodes 7 and 8. I have other things that will be going on. Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is a reality show that I review, will be up. Also another reality show called Heart and Hustle Houston. It'll be up too. And Beyond the Gates, which is the soap opera that currently airs on CBS. I'll have my weekly review. I got a lot to do, y'all. But it's got to get done. All right, so we go back in time. And I forgot the date. I put 1999, but I don't know if that was the right one. Margot, as a teenage girl, walks up to this guy at some gas station and says that her bike is broken or stolen, and she has to walk home, but it's a long one. So then this guy, his name is Dale, offers to give her a ride. And of course, she jumps at the chance to doing that. Now, Dale was first very apprehensive, like, you really want to be around these parts, trying to get rides with strangers? We already seen him looking at her quite lustfully anyways. But she just said, oh, it's a long walk, I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, he takes her home, or at least he thinks this is the home. They drive up to this house, and he sees the house and says, this is beautiful. What kind of job does your dad have? She says something, but anyways, he's not home. What about your mom? Oh, she's at work too. And she just basically says bye. However, when she's ready to get out the car, he touches her leg and says, hey, well, can I come in for a glass of water? I mean, that's the least that you could do for me for what I've done for you. And she says, sure. Next thing you know, there's this little boy, probably 11 or 12, maybe a little bit younger, comes over and has the shotgun rifle ready to blow his head off. Basically, they have schemed, and they're going to take this truck from this dude. They rob him of it, tells him to get out, and then they drive off in it. I said, wow. Okay, so they got it really, they started doing stuff at a pretty young age. And now you can tell why their relationship is probably the way it is. However, hopefully we learn later on where did the dysfunction or the breakup in the relationship happen. Next thing you know, they're running back to the trailer park that we see even Kyle at, and they got $1,500. I'm assuming that they sold the truck. Anyways, the police are there, and we're hearing the landlord saying that she bit my face. I said, Lord Jesus. Lord. So Margot runs over there with the $1,500 and says, here's the rent money. Look. And then she said, no, your mom is getting up out of here. She's crazy. Da, 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 da. My mom is not like that. Da, 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 da. Obviously, there's some type of probably mental issues that are going on with the mom. Anyways, the police are escorting her out and all that good stuff. And that was it for the flashback. Now back in real time, Sophie is trying to talk with Kyle. At this point, he pulled her into the home, bare naked, showing everything. Y'all know what I mean too. about everything. uh, he's kind of like panic. I don't want to say panicking, but quite I don't know, just shoveled. Like, did anyone see you? Da 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 da. He's going to each window and all this good stuff. We still don't know what all that stuff means. However, she said, no. Can you at least put the gun down? So he does. And Sophie introduces herself, and she said that she has one question for him. He said, I will answer your question if you give me a ride. So she really doesn't have any choice. She gives him a ride. And once they get to the destination, Kyle said, stay there. And she said, whoa, I thought you were just going to drop me off. You're going to answer my question, da 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 da. He said, no, this is round trip. So he goes inside, and just a few minutes later, we see Kyle running out, and some people are yelling and running. They got their guns, and they're shooting at him. Of course, Sophie's like, what the is going on, blah, 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 blah. They get in the car, drive off. Of course, the people are running and shooting at the car. I think they ended up shooting off one of the rearview mirrors. So they escape from the people. The next scene, it's early morning at that trailer park. And she's like, what happened back there? At some point, he already picked up on Sophie that, you really liked all that high-speed chase and stuff and danger. And she finally let on that, yes, she does. So I can see where this character is going. It looks like both Margot and Kyle are ones to kind of unleash the wild side or the real side of Sophie, and she's been taming herself in order to keep the marriage and the lifestyle that now she's accustomed to and what she feels is the straight and narrow. It's like, how can I say this? Sophie likes living on the wild side, probably not want to be going to jail or anything like that. However, this I don't want to say Stepford wife. However, Graham kind of has treated her like a child from what I've been seeing, and it's due to a lot of disloyalty and trust that he does not have for her after how she has messed up in the past. Again, I understand Graham's point, but at the same time, it's like you're kind of keeping her locked in, kind of keeping her in a cage, and then you want her to ease up, but at the same time, she doesn't feel that she can be free to be who she is. She's got to be what she needs to be for you and the family. There's no medium, and now that she's found somebody to unlock it out of her, it's kind of like, do I really want to go back to that? I'm really loving this wild side, if y'all understand what I mean. So she finally gets to ask the question that she wanted. She already said this. When was the last time you seen Margot? Sorry about that. So Kyle explains what was going on. Because Sophie said when they went to the house, like, so you just stole from them? He said, hey, they stole from me first. I was just getting back what was rightfully mine. So that big bag of cash is yours? He said, yes, Margot gave it to me. I thought you guys weren't in a good place. Why would she just give me money? It wasn't some type of gift. It was a payoff. So what do you have on her? And he says, I got it all. For the right price, I'll spill it all. And Sophie said, no. You're not getting a dime out of me. So Sophie asked, did you see Margot July 18th? He says no. And the reason I know that it was a no, because that was the night I died. And she's like, what are you talking about? I took some bad pills, a fentanyl that my friends gave me, and my friends dropped me off at urgent care. And I know I did die, and the doctor saved my life. So then after that, so Sophie went to that urgent care to go talk to Dr. Blevins. That's who Kyle said helped him. She finally was able to get through to Dr. Blevins, and he talked with her. He confirmed that he did have Kyle, but under HIPAA, he can't explain anything. He said, I don't need to know all that. She said that. He already told me everything. I just need to know, was there a woman within her 40s and all that came in with him to help him and all that good stuff? Dr. Blevins says that, are you talking about Mandy? She goes by Margot now, but yeah, Mandy. Yeah, that's her brother. And she would be sick to death if I didn't tell her what was going on with her brother, especially with him being so close to death. So she came in there and stayed with him all night. So the brother wasn't aware that Mandy wasn't there, and he said no, he wasn't. She wasn't. He wasn't. All right. So Dr. Blevins spoke up for Mandy Margot and said that she may look slick, but she's a good, God-fearing woman. Okay, doctor. Okay. All right, so Margot, as she's being Margot Obama, she had this interview. They got to this part where they were talking about her never having children. She said that her and Jeb did try, but it did not actually work. The twins, they aren't mine, but I was able, when I married Jeb, which are his twins, when I met them and became a part of their family, it felt like I was a mother all along. And then she goes into the spiel of when Jeb is elected as a governor official, we are going to make sure that we are protecting children from conception. Basically, heaven babies are not a thing. I can't wait till we get to episode 8, because you'll be looking like, huh? When you find out what's going on there in Texas as far as these abortion things going on. So she got done with the interview. People said, great interview, blah, 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 blah. Her assistant leaves her. She goes to her car, and there is a yellow envelope. She left her top down of her car. She opens it, and she is finding photos of her and Brad having sex. And there was a note on one of the photos saying, I see you. I said, oh, okay. We getting somewhere. But I think Margot thinks this is Sophie. Margot finds Sophie at the motel. Sophie wants to know, how did she find her? She knew that there was only 2 motels within this town. You weren't at the other one, so she came here. And Sophie said, look, y'all blocked me, deserted me, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing that we need to discuss, because she did show the photos, like, I need to know what's going on. And Sophie said, go F yourself. You F and all that good stuff. You guys are trying to frame me for murder, da 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 da. And then Margot said, well, you effed up your own, all by yourself, meaning that you lost your gun. What is that all about? Sophie says, well, you lied to me. I went to Kyle. And she said, you went to Kyle? For what? Because I needed the truth. I needed some answers. You weren't talking to me, da 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 da. What's going on with him? Why don't you have this a good relationship with your brother? Why are you ashamed of him? Is it because y'all practice kissing each other? Next thing you know, Margot slaps her. And then next thing you know, I love it, Sophie ended up slamming her up against the wall and choking her. I said, that's my girl. Sick of these hoes. They were really, really being bad. They've been really taking advantage of Sophie, but I'm glad she's fighting back. And then she throws her to the floor and says that you are not in control anymore. Not of me. Is that so? So she says, get the out of here. Then Margot starts crying. I never meant to lie. I effed up. And you should have. And I should have told you the truth. But I really don't know what I'm doing here. I got all of this stuff going on with my brother, and then I'm trying to help out Jeb with being a governor. I don't even know what I'm saying half the time because it's not really me. But I need you. I need you. Say that we can fix this. Say that After giving Sophie her props, she immediately caves in. Yeah, we can fix this. My God, I will tell you that this girl is slick, as the doctor said. She don't just look it, she is it. So she's, I don't want to say this. Yeah, she's slick. So she was able to go from being angry with her and just switch it up so that she could work on Sophie's heartstrings, basically. But she says, we can fix this. However, you're going to have to find out who offed Abby. And then I'll help you in regards to who sent these photos. She thinks it's the op guy, the one-eyed guy who's going rogue right now. Who knows? All right, so Detective Salazar meets up with Deputy or whatever, Flynn, Mr. Flynn, Officer Flynn. And she wants to know what's going on in this Abby case. Johnny is really liking up to Sophie being the one that did this to Abby. And he says something about, why just her? Occam's razor, OCCAM''S razor, RAZOR. Basically means the simplest answer is usually the right one. So they think it's so obvious that it was her, which doesn't even make sense. But then Salazar said, simplest or laziest. But Flynn ended up saying that there were phone calls that were made. One was from Pastor Pete and then also from Jill. So do you think this is some type of church connection going on? It could be, but now she's going to investigate these calls and the people concerning it. Sophie goes and visits Nina's home. Nina, which I couldn't even remember her name, but that's Abby's friend. However, when she knocks on the door, Star is the one that answers. And she said, oh, I thought I was at Nina's home. She said, you are. I'm babysitting her child while her mother is gone and Nina's not home and all that good stuff. I think Sophie introduced herself again or whatever, but she said, look, no matter what people are saying, I would never hurt Abby, blah, 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 blah. So she comes in and they bond over children being colicky and all that good stuff. Star talks about her relationship with Abby. You know, they were basically thick as thieves until Brad came into her life. You know, I tried to be okay and not show any type of whatever, but yeah, it did mess with me a little bit. But she did want to know, was there anything that deeper about what possibly Abby was going through that she shared? She said no, but you can talk to Pastor Pete, the youth pastor of the church. Okay. Margot gets home and you see I don't know what her name is. Sorry. She's the campaign person for what's going on. Margot says, well, you look quite comfortable in my husband's office. Margot asks the girl, you know, what safety guards does she have from being exposed from anything? And she just said, so what's up? What do we have to look out for? Da, 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 da. She said, no, I just need to know for precautionary reasons. We know a lot of people, and there's probably a lot of people that are going to want to cash in at this time since of what they know what we have going on. The person gave her advice, you know, of course people are going to come out of the woodwork trying to make a quick buck and all that. But watch your enemies. And she said, I don't have enemies. I have friends. Of course, it looks like Margot always is able to make a friend, at least able to turn them in for her good, for her benefit, basically, you know. Nobody can really stay mad at Margot because she sometimes flips it. So Margot meets with the other ladies, minus Sophie, because I guess Sophie wasn't really in the group. That's Tracy, Jill, and Monet. So everybody's kind of partying and toasting and all that. Margot says, you know, friends are rare, and I love you all. As we go on to this governor type of campaign trail, I'm going to take you all with me in my heart. Everybody's like, oh. And I'm like, what? That is just like the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like, what? Who cares? So then they start talking about memories of the times that they went on trips. They talked about Cancun and all that good stuff. And then it starts getting quite interesting. We start finding out some of the dirt on some of the other ladies. Callie, she ended up getting some pills from Johnny, who got these pills from the evidence locker from a raid that they had at a gay club called MDM. Next, in New York on the shopping trip, Taylor ended up stealing a Cartier bracelet. Taylor said, no, it was a David Newman. I don't know who David Newman is. And then Margot said, well, it's so sad that lady got fired for accusing you, Taylor, when you actually did it. She was right the whole time. That is so crazy. Monet, let's not forget about the night that you had after the Dallas game. We don't know what that is. And Jill is saying, I don't know what you're doing, tells us to Margot. I don't know what you're doing, but you need to stop. Margot ends up saying, well, you know, I'm just making a point that skeletons should remain in the closet. And I need you to sign these NDAs. Callie is the first one signed. Nope, no problem. That must be just residue from the coochie you got. Because what? Tracy and Monet went on ahead and did theirs, and Jill was apprehensive about it. And they said, go on, Jill, sign it. So she went on and did it. Then she said, what I need you to do, Margot tells the ladies. I need you to delete all pictures with me in them that you have on your phone, even on your cloud. And Jill was like, what for? Because they're going to be looking and snooping everywhere. And it's just good precaution. Callie does it and the other ladies does it, but Jill refuses. Like, no, I have a lot of pictures on there. I like my pictures. And Jill's just ready to go. She gets up to leave. And Margot says, do you have something to hide? And Jill said, no. Do you? I don't know. I just like her country accent. That's why I like her mannerisms and all that. I like to imitate them. So Pastor Clint, Detective Salazar goes to Pastor Clint and asking about Pete. Pastor Clint says that Pete is on leave. Why is he on leave? Kind of a culture shift. He comes from a little church and he didn't really fit with the skill set to help out this congregation. Detective Salazar asks, what happened in Louisiana. He says, I don't know. You would have to really ask them. And then she asks him, is your wife here? And then why are you asking that? Because there was a call that was made to Abby the night of her murder. And then she asked for Pete's home address since he's not there. Sophie goes and visits Pete. She introduces herself at the door. Nina is on her way in, but Pete was able to kind of like say, but not to be too obvious about it. Sophie did ask, are you expecting someone? He said, no. She just said that she wanted to speak about Abby for a few minutes. I don't think she came in at all, whatever. So Nina goes back the other way as Pete tells her to go. She talks a little bit, Sophie talks about Abby and how everyone misses her, da-da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden Pete starts talking about, Abby was not an angel. And what do you mean? She's not that innocent. And then he says that her boyfriend Brad, not that innocent because she had a heaven baby. And she's like, what? Who told you that? Brad told her. Hold on, so how did he seem when he was telling this type of information? Basically he said, no, I don't have any more questions. If you don't go away, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make it look like you are more guilty than what you are. So basically Sophie leaves. Sophie leaves everywhere, wherever. She gets in her car and goes. Nina comes from out of hiding and is very excited to get to go into his home. I said, ooh, okay, that's very, very, very creepy. Anyways, Clint, he comes home. He sees Jill and Brad. Jill is cutting his hair out on the pool area, whatever. And Clint says, why do I have to find out from the police? My wife was talking to a murder victim the night that she was killed. And Jill said, what? I don't recall that. Well, Brad's phone, it was broke. So I'm sure Brad used the phone to contact her. And Brad was like, no, I didn't. Remember? And then Clint was like, enough. Y'all need to take a moment and get your story straight. I'm glad that Clint just cut through all the BS because it's just crazy. Brad and Margot. Brad goes and visits with Margot and says, as a hypothetical question, would you ever ask your kids to lie for something for you? And Margot said, who, the twins? Not if I wanted to get away with it. He ends up telling her about Mom called Abby that night that she passed away. And she didn't tell me. Like, why would she lie? Why would she want me to lie for her? Or to lie for them, Margot says, well, I don't think that she has anything to hide, right? Basically trying to reroute him from thinking about his mom a little bit. But anyways, that was the end of that. I think they went off someplace, but whatever. Pete and Nina, they go to the fair. While they're at the fair, Salazar goes to Pete's home. And she sees that he's gone, but she's looking around the outside of the house and she ends up taking some of his trash just to look to see what's going on. Back at the fair, Pete is asking Nina, like, is she okay? They sit down. Yeah, I'm okay. It's not like I'm going to jump. Then she said, it's not like I didn't. I did think about it right after Abby passed away. But then she went on to say, I think she'll be happy that we found each other. I said, wait, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did we get here, Nina? That now y'all done found each other. Whose baby is that? That's what I want to know. Whose that baby is that? That would have been cool to know, but I know it was more about Abby and everyone else, so from the story, but it would have been an interesting clue or something to really talk about. Not a clue, but something interesting to talk about. Next thing you know, they have a drink. He's got those little alcoholic bottles that he's been drinking out of for the past few episodes. Then all of a sudden he confesses that you were in my dream last night. Oh, what was it about? Then he says he really can't share it. If y'all don't see the grooming that is going on, it's so crazy. And then Nina asked, is this a date? And he said, do you want it to be? There is this reverse psychology that groomers do use to try to put it back on you to decide if you want to do it after they've been luring you in and trying to take this bait for all this time in a way to alleviate themselves from responsibility, or at least be able to guilt you if you ever want to leave or resist this, whatever you guys are doing. It's very, very crazy and very manipulative how they work. Nina said, well, I asked first. Well, it doesn't look like you've had that much dating experience. You'll have to wait and see. And we're going to see for real what this is all about. All right, so Margo and Sophie do meet up again. Sophie tells Margo that Abby had an abortion. She said, what? When did that happen? She said, I don't know when that happened. Where would she have gotten it from? Well, I guess maybe a Planned Parenthood. And Margo was like, well, we don't really make it that easy for you to have a heaven baby down here, Texas. Sophie's just hypothetically thinking, like, what if Brad found out about the abortion but snapped after finding out because she didn't tell him about it? So Margo ends up telling Sophie about Jill calling Abby. What if Jill had found out about the abortion, and of course she wants to protect his reputation, so she ends up doing something to Abby? Then we see Jill, she's aggressively scrubbing the car. You know how she was just scrubbing the countertop in the last few episodes ago? I think that was like episode 2 or 3. Yeah, there's this neuroticness. It kind of reminds me of Bree Vanderkamp on Desperate Housewives, if you remember her, the redhead. I said, oh. Yeah, so we're back at the fair again. At this point, Nina is dizzy and can't really stand up on her own. Pete is putting her in the car. He lets down the seat, the passenger side seat door, seat. And of course she turns her head and she looks and sees that there's a pink sweater there. And she asks, is that Abby's sweater? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? He ends up just shutting the door real quick, and then he's getting in on his side. And then Nina says, you put something in my drink. You put something in my drink. And then she tries to get out the car. Pete runs back over to her. Somebody's walking by and saying, are you guys okay? It's like, yeah, she's okay. Da, 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 da. He puts her back into the car. And that was basically the end of the episode. Pastor Pete, what you got going on? You doing a lot of mess with these teens. I don't know. Lord, so there was an abortion. That was the secret that was going on. I wonder what this means. Of course, there's more revelations to come in episode 7 and 8. Again, I promise to have all those episodes out to you tomorrow. It'll be probably morning time or whatever, but I'm excited about this series. So we're getting somewhere. Leave your comments below about this series and about this episode. Like this video, share it, also subscribe. Until the next one, peace.